Welcome to episode 25 of God's Own Scale podcast. This is the Christmas special. I'll let you decide once you've listened to it how special it is, but hopefully the three A-list guests that I've got with me tonight will make it so and bring some festivity and seasonal cheer into your homes. I've got three people that I've had on the podcast before, and I'm really grateful that they've taken time out of their individual schedules to join me and have a chat about toy soldiers this close to Christmas. I've got Per, Alex, and Dan. So it's Per, Broden, Alex, Sotheran, Dan Hodgson. Per, hello, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Oh, hello, thank you. I'm really well, thank you. I'm sitting here kind of enjoying the rain pouring down instead of nice snow I would have in Sweden, being kind of isolated on these islands. But never mind. This is about positivity, so let's talk about that today. Yeah?
It's a bit of a third-rate Christmas, isn't it, really, when you just got a drizzle outside.
Yeah, but there's no shame in that. Yeah? So we are safe and not sorry here, so that's very good.
Yes, very good. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me again. Yeah.
No worries. Dan, welcome back.
Thanking you. Nice to be back. It's it's over a year, I think, since I was on.
I think it is.
Yeah, episode 6. So it's a lot's happened, hasn't it, in that year? I poked my head out of the painting studio for 5 minutes, and somebody said something. I've ignored most of
it. It's like the zombie apocalypse has gone on whilst you've been painting.
I know.
But welcome back, and thanks for giving up your time. You're the only caller on the call who's drinking some real spirits, I believe.
Well, yeah, I thought I'd get into the spirit of Christmas with a nice Ardbeg, actually, which takes me back to my 40th. I went cycling around Scotland to the islands, and we went to Islay. A lovely wee dram.
And finally on the call, last but no means least, we've got Mr. Alex Sotheran. Hello, Alex. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you? I'm great. I'm continuing drinking Council Pop, as we've already said. Water to those uninitiated to the Yorkshire ways.
Well, down my way, it was always called Corporation Pop, but it's the same principle, isn't it?
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Got ice and a slice in it.
No, I haven't gone that far. I'm not that fancy.
It's a bit too posh.
Yeah,
too posh for this podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, all good here. Like you said, it's been, what was it, about April time or something, wasn't it, when I was on before?
Yeah, a bit later than that, mate, actually. I'll go into that. But yes, the podcast resurrected and found its legs again, I think, around about June time. So probably just after that, I think.
Well, this year's been so difficult to understand what's going on anyway. I completely lost track of time, so...
Yeah, I think we all have, mate. We all have. Just on that note, actually, Dan was the last guest on the show before I took that extended lost weekend period for 7 months. So hopefully, Dan, you're not a bad omen and I disappear again for another 7 months.
Let's hope not, no. Although I did go to the Hammerhead show in March, and of course that was pretty much the last of the big shows. There were no more shows after that, so maybe I do jinx these.
These things come in threes, mate. But actually, thanks to Per, who's on the call, and Peter Berry, that actually managed to pick up the microphone and get broadcasting again. And actually, this episode is the 18th episode since that resurrection. So thank you, Per, for taking the time to reach out to me and encourage me back.
Yeah, we missed you when you're away, and I'm really happy you've been back, and you've been really busy, and I think brought some really nice people on your show, some people that we never kind of heard about before, well heard on a podcast, but we knew about, and I think that's quite great, like Heroics and Ross, for example, I never listened to them before, Regular Miniatures, etc. So it's been really good to kind of get we heard Peter a few times, and I don't mind listening to him. But it's nice to kind of get a little bit wider. 2D6 as well you had on the show, and so I think you're doing really well. And there's perhaps a few missing there from your bucket list, but I think you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm certainly making the effort to reach out to people. There's one or two people I think who are perhaps a bit nervous about coming on to the microphone, but I'm sure all three of you can attest to the fact it's not too bad once you get going. It's I like to have that balance of speaking to people from the industry and also some of those gamers who perhaps haven't had a voice before across the airwaves. Having listened to podcasts for years now, you do tend to get the sort of hobby leaders, as I would suggest, who are the regular people to appear on these shows. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. It's absolutely great and it's good listening, but also I like the idea of reaching out to some of these people who haven't perhaps had the opportunity to speak across the airwaves before and get across their views and opinions about this wonderful hobby of ours, this broad church of a hobby that I think has kept all of us sane over the last year that has been 2020.
Yeah, I'd like to second what Per said. Then it's been really great while I've been painting. I have the podcast on and listen to, like Per says, all these people who I've known for years around the show circuit. But it's good to listen and get another take on things. So keep it up. And I'm one of those people who didn't have a voice on these. I mean, I thought a podcast was something to do with fishing. So.
Yeah, and I'd certainly echo that as well. My listening habits have completely changed. I've just been listening to your back catalogue of interviewees, really, and it's fantastic to do, like Dan said, then just as you're painting, really. It's just something nice to have while you're surrounding yourself with hobby, really. It's great, and long may it continue, I think, Sean.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, and thank you for those comments. They're very kind. I don't do compliments very well, but thanks for those. But what I like to think of it is as though it's a couple of mates having a chat down a pub about a hobby that we all enjoy, and pretty much every wargamer that I know of can sit and talk for hours about this hobby because it's so many and varied, isn't it? There's so many disciplines within the hobby. It's not just playing the games is probably the smallest part of it, actually, ironically, for the hours of painting, research, and all the rest of it that we do. But let's hope things continue. On that note, just talking about how bad this year has been, 2020, with the COVID crisis and one or two other things going on, I thought it'd be good as a podcast of positivity to perhaps just have a look back at the year and pick out some positives from it. Because looking back in 2, 3, 4 years' time, hopefully, when this is all behind us, we can perhaps reflect on how we coped with this year and how we got through it together across various platforms and medias, and pick out those positive points that we've seen. So I've asked each of you to come up with 3 positives for the year, and we'll take one off you each in turn. Per, can you give me your first positive of the year 2020, please? Oh, no, sorry. I've gone completely wrong. I've gone way off schedule.
Oh, you want drinking spirits?
It's your show. Come on, go for it, yeah? Take any what you like, yeah?
Right, okay, let's rewind. I'm not editing this out. It's staying in.
No plan to survive contact with the enemy.
It's so big build-up going on. Come on, now you can't abort now, yeah? This is like Death Star almost there. Targeted and you're not going to shoot, yeah? What are you doing?
You would have thought after 25 episodes I might learn to follow my own show notes, but shall we go straight? Shall we do 2020?
Let's do 2020.
Yeah, let's do it. We're all hopped up ready.
Let's get it over with. Then we'll move on to the good stuff.
Can I start then? Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so basically, my best 2020, and all the other stuff with the children getting this and that, but from a gaming perspective or hobby perspective, was the charity project that I had this little idea that I was going to do something because we couldn't go to Joy of Six, and I thought that what about if we painted an army together with some people? And I talked to Peter about it, and this is the charity project, which I think I talked about at the last show.
Yes.
But basically, there's over 50 people who contributed their time of painting one base worth of 6mm miniatures, either an infantry or a horse unit. So either 9 horse or 24 infantry. And they all sent it in to me, and I based it up, and I have these 2 fantastic armies, and I'm so happy that people, really, take a chance on me on doing this. Yeah. And I thought that in terms of so in terms of the best thing I've done, so we're now in a situation where, because of the idea was that COVID would go away early, earlier than perhaps now it's happening, and the idea was to try to get this battle, this armies out and fight a little bit on the show circuit. Unfortunately, there hasn't been much of a show circuit, so I've talked to everyone who's been involved. I sent out communication and said that we planning on trying to get this army sold, raffled out next year, end of next year. But between now and next year, we will do a little bit of a booklet that will present these armies. There are 2 fictitious countries, basically, an imaginations kind of thing, and loosely based on Russia and Sweden. Very, very hard based, actually, not loosely. And to do a little booklet that maybe it can find a way to sell that as a little book, imaginations book, and then to do some battles with it at a real wargame show. So I don't want to get rid of the 2 armies until we had it to one wargame show at least. That is, for me, one of the biggest things, the people coming together during lockdown and helping with that. That's my first one.
That was a pretty amazing project, Per. And I think when we spoke, it was actually the first podcast back on the air. And it was pretty much still in the planning phase, wasn't it? I don't know if Peter had sent out the figures at that point.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was a little bit nervous because obviously I didn't want to stand there like an idiot having kind of 5 people having kind of launched out to the idea, but I actually ended up getting people who wanted to be involved afterwards. So I sent out a few kind of bonus bases and so on. So I think we have a few kind of, we have had, everyone you could imagine, involved in people who are normally painting 28 mil miniatures, fantastically. Have kind of sat down and painted 6 mil fantastically too. We have, all of you guys have contributed a base each, for example, and it's been really nice. I mean, there's a few things in retrospect that I wish we would have more of, perhaps, perhaps a little bit of a wider range of people actually, painting it. I feel that, perhaps there could have been more younger people, or perhaps different gender than being male and in their 40s, 50s. Yeah. But that's perhaps the target for next time I do it, to kind of spread it a little bit. But yeah, it's a really good, interesting project, to be honest.
But I think the amazing thing was that it came off that out of all those people that you put a mail shot out, didn't you, to say who would be interested?
Yeah.
And I know 1 or 2 extra people joined a little bit later, but it came off, didn't it? People got those figures and got them painted and got them back to you.
Well, it was fantastic, and the small little notes people wrote of encouragement and thank you and etc. And also I could probably write a PhD now in how middle-aged blokes pack miniatures when they say, and I'll tell you what, very tight in toilet paper taped around is quite a popular one, yeah. Where there's no chance that the miniature gets destroyed during transit, but when it gets opened, it's probably a 90% chance you damage it. Not that I did any of that, but that was my biggest learning experience from it. Yeah, so there you go.
This is why people were panic buying loo rolls.
Yeah,
Earlier on in
or
the
maybe,
year, all those figures that were packing off here.
or I just thought they were sitting there next to this bloody mountain of Luros thinking, why the hell did I buy all those? Yeah. I just need to kind of frenetically wrap it around something, you know?
I suppose at least it kept you in loo rolls as well when they did arrive.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So Dan, what did you pack yours in, mate? What did you pack yours in? Can
Loo
you
roll.
remember?
Yeah, loo roll. Actually, I can't remember. But it's funny, isn't it? I mean, I always love getting figures from Adler because they're just wrapped in this lovely little tissue. Not toilet roll, but tissue.
Yes.
That's real old school stuff, that is. Ian from Irregular, of course, he wraps his like fish and chips in newspaper.
Yeah.
He does,
It does, yeah. You get the York News, don't you? About 4 days ago.
You do.
It says quite a lot about the company, doesn't it? You know what they wrap the things in. Brilliant.
Yeah, but he normally sends them about the same day you do the order, so you get, and you get fresh news as well, you know.
Oh, I got mine from Ian before I'd even ordered them. It was another 50 wigwams TP, so he kind of
he knew what to send.
He knew what to send. Now he just sends me 50 away.
That's brilliant. Alex, what was yours in, mate?
Mine would have been a toilet roll as well, I think.
Oh.
Sorry, Per.
You old geezers, you. I think I had some lovely upholstery foam that I'd wrapped mine in. I think mine was quite posh.
Woo!
I'll get you.
I found it in the loft when I went up there when I moved in the house. So God knows how long it had been up there. Oh God! Right. Thanks for that, Per, for your number one. I'll take my hat off to you about that, because joking aside, to pull that off with the intention of supporting a charity was just amazing. It's certainly one of my highlights of the year following the development of that. Because obviously you still had some hard work to do because you did all the basing.
Yeah, but I think I proved over the last few days here that I've done a few bases in my life. So
yes,
it's not really. It's a pleasure. And as I said before, the reason for me doing the bases was basically because that is the trick. That's really the trick with it. It's otherwise it would have not worked. But
yeah.
So yeah, that was not hard work. That was a pleasure, and it was nice to see. And okay. One thing, another experience from it is that when you deal with someone else's miniatures, it's a little bit like, you suddenly you come and see people and they got a new baby, and suddenly they stuck that baby in front of you. And I have 3 children, and I cannot hold a baby that isn't mine. I'm a bit scared almost. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a little bit the same, because I get these miniatures and first having to get them out of the, bloody toilet roll, yeah, and not damaging them, yeah. And there was 1 or 2 I actually kind of, damaged at some point, and you kind of try to fix them, yeah. But then just the fact how you kind of suddenly it becomes like almost like a job to do these bases for these people, because I still feel that this is not like, I have to do it. So that was perhaps the hardest. I kind of started almost taking it almost like some kind of religious ritual of making sure that because occasionally half my bases is full of, glue and grass on the individuals if you look carefully. But these ones are probably the best one ever,
Yeah. No, it's certainly, as you've said, I think in 6mm in particularly, if the basing is consistent, then that's half the trick, I think, with making 6mm look good. Okay, thanks for that number one there. Dan, what is your first highlight of 2020?
Well, my first highlight of 2020 would be, and I do apologise for repetition here, but he's taken the wind out of my sails, because I was going to say Per's project. I thought it was brilliant. I mean, it was such a it's such a simple. It's one of those things where you hear about it and you think, why has nobody done that before? I mean, of course, that's what people want to do. Just paint some miniatures, send them in. And obviously, I painted 10,000 Hodgson's Dragoons, but I only sent per 9 of them. But I couldn't bring myself to only paint 9 figures. I thought it would just the whole idea of it, really, and especially with all the bad news going on, the fact that we could all paint up some figures, send them off, and then it's going to go for charity. I mean, I'd love to have a game with it. I would love to see them all set up and have a game, but
yes, me too.
Wouldn't it be great if everybody who painted a unit could get together around the table and play their own unit? It'd be mad. I'm looking forward to hearing how Hodgson's Dragoons. Sorry about the pronunciation there. Oh, it's terrible. It was great. No, that's one of my real positives of an otherwise, pretty dodgy year.
Yes, certainly has been, and I echo those comments. Thanks for that, Dan. Alex?
Similar, really, I suppose. Being part of Pear's project was great, but rather than just to say the same thing as everybody else has so far, I mean, I think one of the main things I did, I actually cleared out a lot of my lead mounting this year, just because I didn't have the commute to work or anything, and then I was working from home, so it's very hard to roll out of bed and get onto your desk rather than having to drive for an hour and a half to go to the office. So I had plenty more time to do stuff, and getting involved with Pear's project was part of that. Really, just being able to paint up some things for that. I came into it quite late on. I think it was the second round. I managed to get in on that, but prior to that, I'd just literally been pulling all the figures out of my lead mountain and just finishing them off, really. And then I got to a point where I'd actually almost finished it, but now it's back to being a mountain again because I've just been buying stuff ever since.
This is the way.
It wouldn't be any other way, would it, really?
No.
We like it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. We keep the hobby afloat.
That's it. Just keep going to think, well, the money is going into somebody else's pocket, isn't it, and keeping them going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm really glad that there's consensus on that because it was such a big highlight of the year for me. And I think in particular for me, it was about the fact I'm painting something that I wouldn't ordinarily paint. It's a period I've never painted figures in. That I know, and I appreciate it's an imagination, but it's certainly based in historical fact. And it got me painting some new figures that I'd not experienced before. But that's good. I like that. My first one is actually Twitter, in that I know, Dan, that you aren't a tweeter. You might struggle to get it on your Nokia 3310 or whatever it is that you've got.
This is the problem, you see. I don't have the technology to do that.
Yeah, but Twitter this year has been a real revelation for me. I've always dipped in and out of it and lurked, I guess, and followed various people within the hobby. And I principally use it for hobby. In fact, it's almost exclusively hobby now, having got my fingers burnt a couple of times previously when I perhaps liked a political post that then starts an absolute shitstorm of comments. It's really not worth getting into, is it? So I've certainly avoided anything outside of the hobby, but that little corner of the hobby that we populate, and I know Alex and Per, you're both regular tweeters. I think that's the right phrase.
Yeah. There are other words you could use for us, but let's stick with tweeters for now, shall we?
But I just think it's been inspirational for me to follow people's hobby. And I do this on Facebook as well, but less so. Dan, you're probably one of the main people that I follow on Facebook. But on Twitter, you've got that almost instant feedback. You get discussions going almost in real time. When a point of interest within the hobby comes up, then you're almost straight into a conversation. And on top of that, there's the ability to spread word about your own projects and get feedback on it. And there's a little bit, I suppose, where you're looking for you want some of that positive feedback to give you some encouragement to carry on. And certainly that's my experience, that nobody gives negative feedback on pictures that you post of your figures. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, it's microblogging, isn't it, really?
Yes. Yeah.
You're constricted by the characters, so you've got to get things in pretty snappy. And like you say, I think it's great for the encouragement it gives as much as anything else.
And it's a great way of spreading the word, isn't it? I know for your YouTube channel, for the podcast, Pay, I know in the past you've used it to talk about your blog and point people towards your own blog. But I just think it's been such a positive influence on the hobby this year. I don't know what you think yourself there, Per.
Well, I think it's great because you can kind of, for me, as was stated before, it's kind of a little bit of a microblogs, and it's quite difficult to keep. I mean, I've write a blog and it's a little bit kind of half dormant. I have written so few this year, but it takes quite a lot of effort to write a blog, and because you have to kind of sit there, and I have probably about 25 kind of half-cooked, blog that I haven't finished yet because I feel like they're missing this and that. But Twitter, as you say, allows you to kind of just throw out something, and I quite enjoy it, and it stimulates you to do the same. So first, as you say, you're there, you're looking, and you try to follow people and so on, and you realize that there's so many, normal guys like yourself who are just trying to kind of have a little bit of, extra, time we have and do a little bit of painting and so on. I mean, it's not, there's a wide range of people, and it's quite nice that everyone seems to be, in a way, behaving, and it's quite, rarely you get something. And of course, I try to, I have my views about, whether Boris Karloff is the best, PM or whatever. And perhaps I don't kind of talk so much about it, at Twitter, because I feel I'm not there for that, and really I'm not into politics to that view. But of course, there are things that I get irritated and hurt about. But I guess it's, I don't really care. I don't really go through who follows me or whatever, or blocks, if, and maybe I should or whatever, but I'm kind of, I don't feel like that's what Twitter is. I think it is, you can pick and choose who you follow, and if someone wants to follow me, fine. I might not kind of want to follow them. That's not necessarily the deal,
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, I think you found it quite a positive experience, haven't you, from what I can see?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started on Twitter a few years ago, and it was kind of a personal one, and I kind of got swamped by the politics and things on it. I mean, I'm very interested in politics. I used to save it for Facebook because I see that more as my people I know face to face, whereas Twitter is more like, you're putting it out, because obviously on Facebook you can set it to see who can see your things and things, whereas with Twitter it's a bit more open. I know you can set it so it's a closed thing, but I feel that it's more of a bullhorn approach kind of thing, really. You're putting stuff there, and I when I first started with the hobby Twitter, I was kind of only really just putting up links to my blogs and stuff and not really interacting much. And it took me quite a while. I talked to my wife about this, and she, she told me about, just interacting with people and starting off conversations or joining in with ones that are going on. And I found that has absolutely transformed my Twitter experience over the last year. In that, people do start to interact more back with you, you know what I mean? And you get more of a presence on there if that's the kind of thing you're after. And for my YouTube channel, it's been fantastic because there's been such a positive response to videos that I put out. And like Per said, I mean, so far, pretty much everybody has behaved themselves. There's been on the occasion that I've had to block a couple of people, but it's been so few and far between that it's not even an issue, really. I don't think I've really had any major negative experiences on it. I think it's a great platform for wargaming. There's a great wargaming community on there that is active and interested and supportive. And that, what more can you ask for, really?
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's like forums used to be. Sorry, just to carry on blabbing on. It's like how forums were like 10 years ago. They've kind of fallen a bit to the wayside, and now it seems like Twitter is the place to be if you want your hobby stuff.
Interesting. I mean, I'm not on Twitter, and I don't think my partner would be very happy if I did go on, because I spend 18 hours a day painting as it is, and then an hour putting photos on Facebook, and there's only so many hours in a day, even though I live on Mars and I've got an extra hour every day. That's what some people think, anyway. But so I'm maybe I'm missing a trick. But I know Facebook is. You can often get into all sorts of little shenanigans with people, but I've found actually 3 years now I've been on it, and basically I talking about blogs. I did a blog on a website, but like you say, Claire, I just couldn't. I didn't keep up with it. It wasn't the same, and there weren't many people on it. People didn't see it. There were no traffic on it. So I thought, well, I'll just have a Facebook page. I won't use it for actual friends and family. I'll use it for a sort of, almost like a business thing for me painting. But it's turned into something else actually, and I've got about coming up to 4,000 people now on there, and it's great. You can put a silly post on. I put one on yesterday about Dunelm when I was trailing around Dunelm and saw this fabric table where they cut the curtains, and I thought that's a brilliant war game table. So I put a photo of that on, and I've had hundreds of responses. It's great, and it does. You get that discussion as well. So, but yeah, I don't think there's enough hours for me to do Twitter, but maybe I should have a.
Well, Dan, for the amount of photographs that you post on Facebook, I would agree with you. Stick to Facebook, because there aren't 25 hours in the day, unfortunately, and I very much enjoy following your posts on there. But just to echo what Alex and Per have said, Twitter is it's a bit like, for me, it's a bit like sitting down like this podcast. It's a bit like sitting down the pub and just seeing what people are getting up to, and catching up on the hobby. And occasionally there'll be a point of interest that'll come up that we may talk about later. That certainly has happened over the last couple of days, or from yesterday actually. And you get discussion going, but it can be with people who you've no idea who they are. And I think sometimes you have to be a little bit careful. And like yourself, Alex, I think I've blocked one or two people in the past that I thought, I'm not entirely sure I need to be interacting with this person. But the vast majority are sensible people who love the hobby and use it as a bit of a platform to talk about it and spread the news. So if you do find an extra hour in your day, Dan, I would recommend it. But
I will. I'll borrow my partner's phone, Julia's phone, and I'll have a look, see what's going on.
Yeah, have a look. Yeah, you can certainly search all three of us out. We're on there most days. So let's circle back round to Per then for your second positive aspect of the year 2020.
Okay, so one of the funniest projects I've done this year is actually a 2mm project.
Yes.
And so I would say, so Mark Backhouse, who's he's writing a set of rules which he's used some of his fantastic 2mm creations to kind of put into life and so on. And it had a different name before, but it's called Strength and Honor at the moment, which I kind of remember. So that's perhaps a good start for it. And he asked me to play test it. Now, I've been so bloody busy, so I haven't had time to play test it yet. But what I did have time to do was to do quite a few kind of 2mm kind of bases. And I tried some time ago, and I struggled a little bit with it, because I think I approached it a little bit like the uninitiated perhaps approaches a 2mm project, but it's harder to try to paint 2mm miniatures in the same way as some people might try and be successful, all these bloody taking ages. painting their 6mm. But I kind of gave it a go, and I kind of went for the kind of dotting a little bit here and there and see how it turns out. And it was kind of a revelation for me and quite interesting. Now, I don't know if I love it more than 6mm. I have to admit I don't. But those armies I did, some Romans versus some kind of war bands, whatever kind of, has been really, really fun project. And at the same time as I did that, and I know I'm kind of sneaking in a little bit, I also did this infamy kind of war band, which is a fusion of Scandinavian post-apocalyptic environments with kind of Romans and Celts. Yeah. So that for me has been like I've kind of tried out two kind of crazy things this year, which perhaps I'm not sure I would have done otherwise. I probably would have kind of done, try that rule in 6mm or try, infamy in 6mm, but I kind of decided to stretch myself a little bit, and so that's been kind of a positive this year. I think I painted quite a lot of 28mm and 2mm. I actually realized I painted all the Warlords Judge Dredd figures that they kind of released in that latest round, as a little bit of a hobby thing on the side in the kind of last 6 months, which so the production has been enormous, even though it kind of doesn't look like that when you look at my 6mm stuff. Yeah. So for me, it's the widening of what I've been doing has been a positive.
Alex, I think you've painted some of those, haven't you? The Judge Dredd stuff.
Yeah, Per and I were talking about it while he was doing them. He's a fantastic guy, I think. I mean, I picked a load up when they first released them. I don't know if there's been any new releases on those. They seem to be languishing a little bit, but I guess that's COVID and things, isn't it? But they're really nice figures. I got a lot of their old range as well, which were nice, but the sculpts were all completely different. The judges are all supposed to be the same uniform, and the eagles on their arms were all completely different because they're obviously done by different people. But these new ones, they're uniform, which is probably the best way to describe them. So they all look like they're supposed to be wearing the same uniform, despite their different figures. They're really lovely. I don't know how you found painting them, Per, but I've really enjoyed it, and Judge Dredd's just been a childhood hero of mine, and always will be, I think, well, anti-hero, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, I remember the first time, actually, my mum who dragged home a Judge Dredd and kind of gave to me, and said, I found this, maybe you like it. And I remind her, she doesn't remember it, but, it's actually mum who kind of gave me this introduction to this guy, So... So no, it's the same, and for me, it's kind of like, as you say, it's the anti-hero. I tried to get my son into it, but he's a little bit, perhaps, too modern in his thinking. He doesn't think it's, he doesn't really see the charm in the same way. So we're working on that, yeah.
Keep battering him with it.
Yeah, well, exactly. It seems a little bit sensitive, like perhaps not as kind of John Wayne as me, maybe. I don't know, and maybe that's a good thing for the modern world. But yeah.
Dan, have you any experience of Judge Dredd at all?
I've not. I've painted all sorts of things for people, commission-wise and things, and for my own numerous projects. But I've never done the Judge Dredd. I've never gone down that one. I've done a bit of sort of sci-fi in the Star Wars game I put on, and I think maybe in the future I'll do I'm a big H.G. Wells fan, so I might do War of the Worlds in 6mm.
Oh, excellent.
Wow.
That'd be nice, using some of the Bacchus Victorian British, and then stick to the book, not the film, not the LA film. Get some. I think Pendragon do some tripods. So but no, I've not done Judge Dredd yet.
Have you done 2mm? Have I ever seen you do 2mm?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to. I'll move on to my second positive. It kind of comes into that again. It's a little bit like again. He's going to think I'm copying. I'm looking over his shoulder. My second positive of the 2020 is time. Really, I had a lot more time. I was lucky enough to still be paid, but I wasn't exactly furloughed. But I work at a college, and it had to close down in March. And so I had from March until September, apart from some online sort of meetings and things, but I had a lot more time than I usually would. So that really meant that I could A, indulge more in my projects, and B, do a lot more commissions than I would have taken on. So I did some 2 mil stuff. Yeah, I did some scenic stuff from Brigade Models.
Oh,
Lovely little buildings they do in the 2 mil stuff. And I've done some of the Edsel Osme 3 mil in the past. Again, it's a brilliant scale, really. It just gives you, all the things we talk about 6 mil compared to the 28 big boys. We can get a bigger battlefield. You can do the flanking move. It looks more like a battle. It did. I mean, you go to the nth degree, then obviously, then 2 mil, you can say that more so, really. So I enjoyed painting that up, and it's amazing what sort of detail they're getting on these figures now as well. I don't know if anybody saw, but did you see that nano? Some sort of somebody made a boat that was about 0.01 nanometers long or something.
God, no, I didn't see that. No.
Oh my God, we can have a war game with a microscope, and you can have a 6 foot by 4 foot table. Could be a whole continent,
There's an entire hobby, isn't there, where people paint little figures on the top of a pinhead, where they'll paint a figure of Elvis Presley. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that, but it's quite remarkable what these people do on the head of a pin.
I've seen them on crates of rice.
Is he a French bloke who did he carves out grains of sand? He did a camel in the eye of a needle.
That's it, in the eye of a needle. There you go, not the top of a pinhead, yeah.
That's right, yeah, he did an actual camel out of a grain of sand. I mean, that's just bonkers. I mean, my eyesight's pretty good, but I don't think I could go that small.
No, that's taking the biscuit a little bit.
Yeah, so I think time really. Time is, that's the most precious thing, isn't it? I mean, it's an interesting topic because, if you've got a partner and everything else, you've got to fit all sorts of things in. And I am pretty much all or nothing. And I think we talked a bit before we started about how I dropped out of the scene and lost the mojo, and I didn't do anything for a couple of months. And then once I get back into it, it's an obsession. And if I wasn't stopped, I'd just do it 24 hours a day. So he's very good at reining me in and putting up with it. But I mean, maybe that's another. I was thinking, when you sent, what could we talk about? Maybe another time, John. We'll talk about sort of wargaming widow sort of thing that we.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting topic because a lot of comments I get off Facebook are all about, how does she put up with this and how does she. So that'd be an interesting topic. But I digress. Time. It's given me.
Well. Just on that point, Alex, your wife lives in a different country, doesn't she?
She certainly does. Well, at the moment, she's back for Christmas. She came back 4 weeks ago, just before Austria went into a lockdown. She jumped on a plane. She lives and works in Vienna. We've not seen one another since March, I think it was. No, it was the second British lockdown. So I went across in summer for a week to go and see her because that was the first time we'd seen each other since last Christmas. And she basically jumped on a plane and was here, 2 days after we'd discussed it. She's here at the moment, and she's supposed to go back on the 30th because of the B word, which I'll not bring up.
Yeah, that's one word that's banned.
Yeah, because there's a whole issue about residencies and things.
Yes,
and they've just now cancelled all flights. So
I was just going to say, this whole trains, planes, and automobile thing. It's just mad, isn't it?
The problem is, it's so we don't know at the moment what's going to happen with the flights, whether they're going to allow flights again, or if she's going to be here for much longer. I mean, she's been able to work from home. She's actually attending a conference tomorrow in Macedonia in our front room, which, is that's probably quite a good segue into my second one. But yeah, basically at the moment she's here in the UK for the time being, and for the foreseeable future at the moment until things change. You know, it's a daily updates as to what is happening travel wise for her. So yeah, you know, a positive. That's a positive having her around. In a funny kind of way, it's positive she's not here because she would be a wargaming widow otherwise, I think.
Yes, yeah. Well, that was sort of the point there. That your productivity over the summer has been phenomenal, but obviously with your partner far away.
Yeah, you know, so it's positives and negatives, I guess, in both ways.
Yeah. I think time is something we can all agree on. That there's a real balance, isn't there, with families, work, and other commitments to give to the hobby, whether or not you're making money from the hobby, whether or not it's purely for your own enjoyment or to keep up a blog or whatever it is. Time spent, like I'm sitting in my office now surrounded by my figures, but whilst I'm here, I'm not downstairs with my wife and my child. But fortunately they're out at the moment, but you get the point that the time that you spend, it's quite a solitary activity, isn't it, where you're painting?
It is, yeah.
I mean, I'm up in the war room and Claire is down somewhere else in the house. You know, we're not interacting when she's here. So, you know, my painting has dropped off while Claire has been here. That's because you know, I want to see her.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, it's understandable, absolutely. But
Oh, God, I hope my partner's not listening to this then, otherwise she's going to think I don't want to see her.
18 hours a day painting, mate. Yeah. Okay, Dan, thank you very much for that. I think we can all agree time has been a great asset for most of us throughout the year, apart from Per, obviously, who's been working incredibly hard by the sounds of it. Alex, we'll segue into your second one then.
Well, yeah, like I said, basically, the big revelation and a real positive that I've seen come out of 2020 has just been the rise in online gaming, and I mean specifically wargaming. I don't know if any of you other guys have been involved in any of the virtual LARD games that Jeremy Short set up earlier this year. They're basically it's online sessions of Two Fat Lardies games, and I think it's on 3 at the moment. There's been 3, and each one has grown because I don't know if you're aware, but the Two Fat Lardies normally have their lard days up all across the country, the UK, and they're basically just free gaming days. You go along and you go and try out the lardy games and meet up with various people. And I was at Steel Lard last year in Sheffield, last November, and then off the back of that, Jeremy invited me along to the virtual lard, which I thought, you know, going into it, I thought I don't really know what this is going to be about. You know, how do you play war games online, you know, against people? And it's basically really, really simple. The host, you have a host, they set up the table. You usually have two players per side, so 4 people, so 5 people in total, the host and then the players. The host will they'll basically set up a webcam so everybody can see the board. They'll have another smaller webcam, like on a phone or something, and basically you just play through the game like you normally would, but the host is the one that's moving the figures around on the table, but the players are the ones that are rolling the dice. So, you know, when you get into combat and things, you get to roll the dice. And like I say, when I first heard about it, I was just thinking, how does this work? And then literally within minutes of the game starting, you're in it. You know, you sat watching this thing. You give all your instructions to the guy who hosts. They move everything around, and it works perfectly. And I've sat in on 3 of them now and really enjoyed every single one of them. And I thought what was really interesting in the last one I played, I was playing Chain of Command. It was hosted by a chap in Ireland. I was sat here in Rotherham, near Sheffield. He was in Ireland. I think he's in Dublin, near Dublin. One of the guys on my team was on the east coast of America, and we were playing against another guy on the east coast of America and another bloke on the west coast of America. It was like 6,000 miles between all of us. Yet we were all able to play Chain of Command, you know, perfectly well. And I thought it's a real eye-opener. It's something that I can't imagine many people have actually done prior to 2020. So I just thought, that was a real for wargaming, if nothing else, a real positive thing. It's really, really opened a lot of people's eyes up to what you can actually do.
It's pretty amazing, that is, isn't it? And I know that there's been a real uptake in Zoom. Who'd heard of Zoom? Well, I certainly hadn't heard of Zoom prior to March. But I guess the shares in that company have gone through the roof. But to facilitate these online games, and I talked about this in the Q&A that I did a couple of weeks back. The question was raised: could Zoom games or games over the internet bring something else to the game experience, other than the convenience of being able to play sat in your own home against somebody on the other side of the world? And I thought that was an interesting point, because in games, in traditional face-to-face games, we have perfect information, don't we? We have that God's eye view of the table, whereas there's the potential where you get just the view of where your men are in your position, and you haven't got that perfect information.
Exactly. I don't know if you've seen the new Lardy magazine as well. That's just come out. There's somebody, I can't remember his name. He's called Trouble at Mill on Twitter.
Mike Whittaker.
That's it, Mike Whittaker. He spoke about that, and basically, I think he's done this via Zoom, where you can only actually see what your figures can see on the board. So they set up the camera, so it is, basically at worm's eye level.
Yes.
You can't see it, you can't shoot at it. And, by all accounts, that has gone down really, really well from what I've heard about it. And I think, that's a perfect way of doing it compared to the way we normally play, like you say, with the God's eye over the battlefield. You always know where your enemy are, even if they're a blind or a dummy or something. You've still got an idea. Whereas if you've only got that camera eye view on the ground, and that can be controlled pretty easily through Zoom, I think. So I think that is a massive difference to normal face-to-face wargaming.
It's an interesting development, isn't it? Because I think that has perhaps come out as a potential or a positive out of something that people have used out of necessity, that actually there's a new angle to play the game at. So it'd be interesting to see how that develops.
I'm looking for, in the future, for potential people hosting this on a regular basis. If it could actually grow the hobby as well, that you can kind of try out, etc. Like have set up these things, and also for companies to promote their games.
Absolutely,
to play and so on. So I think there'll be a lot of things coming out of that. I tried only twice to play these games, and I feel exactly like you're saying, that it's that element of kind of almost like you're in a submarine, and you get selective information, and you have to make decisions based on, quickly based on the limited information you have. Is what's coming against me, is it kind of an enemy, and and then taking the risk of exposing yourself. And as you say, it's totally different than when you stand there and all of you around the table, and you kind of almost making decisions together, which is a great social way of it, but it actually adds a little bit of a more kind of interesting dynamic to it, that you can't really create unless you could put like yourself in a box running around again.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, that whole fog of war is something that most war games rules fall down on. And I've seen it at shows where people have had screens up, and they're the high command. Some people are high command. The others are the sort of generals on the ground, and they can only communicate through that, and they can't see what's going on the board. And I guess it's just taking that to another level. I've not tried it, but it sounds brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, so it really is. I mean, even just the online gaming itself is a terrific way of meeting new people that you'd never come across. You'd never see these people in your life. Like I say, I was playing with 3 guys in America. We're all enjoying the same game. It's an incredible experience, really.
Yeah, it's something I should jump onto. I think next opportunity where one comes up, perhaps in the new year, I'll certainly give that a go. Right, let's go back round to the top then. Back to Per for your third and final highlight of 2020.
So my final one is a very kind of small thing, but actually really big thing for me. I actually commissioned 5 6 millimeter miniatures by a sculptor, an Italian guy who's made 6 millimeter figures for me, 5 of them, and they depict my 3 favorite paintings that relate to the Great Northern War. And I I wanted to paint these little small vignettes or whatever they're called, uh, and one is basically the little scene that Mazepa, who was the Cossack leader who helped Charles XII in Poltava, where at after the battle he sits there, King Charles, with his damaged leg, which was one of the causes that he couldn't really lead the forces on that day, and Mazepa kind of points out to him, points out over the Dnieper River. So these two kind of figures I've done. I've also always wanted to have a proper King Charles riding on a horse, the triumphant King Charles. So I've done one of those as well. And then I got Stenbock, who was one of my favorite general and field marshal later on of the era, and he managed to assemble a Swedish force to kick out the Danes once and for all from Sweden in 1710. No disrespect to the Danes, but they don't really belong in southern Sweden, in my view. And it was basically he assembled young kind of recruits, more or less, and they were walking in their wooden shoes, in their clogs. And the little drummer boy that I've been made here actually wears clogs, and Stenbock himself is riding on a horse triumphantly, like the famous painting, holding up his tricorn. And they're all done in 6 mil, and they all look beautiful, And I paid a lot of money for it, but it was worth every penny. And that is one of the personally best thing I've done this year,
I've seen the pictures of those pair, and I think we communicated around about the time you were doing the commission, so that's come through fairly quickly, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, but I just want to get them because I hope that postal service from Italy is not as bad as the postal service within the UK at the moment. But, we'll see when they arrive at some point for April or something.
Yes. So you haven't got them in your hands yet?
No, I've just been sent the kind of finals, and are they good? And they will look brilliant, and just amazing kind of level of skill. I mean, I've seen great 6 mil before, and it's not in that sense, but it was just nice to say, look, here are my 3 favorite paintings. Can you please do, Charles on the horse, the drummer boy, and Stenbock, and then Mazepa, and they are done exactly like you would imagine them, with that 6 millimeter charms. Of course, they look a little bit more like me than a thin individual, but they have that perfect kind of caricature of a person that works in 6 mil. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they look excellent, and I look forward to seeing them painted up. Okay, thanks for that, Per. Dan, number 3.
That's it, because I've had that idea for a while, the whole military painting, the prints. And I just made, only this week, I've just made a little burning limber and a Gatling gun that the fuzzy wuzzies, if we can call them that, Beja or Haydendower tribesmen in the Sudan at the Battle of Tame, a famous painting. So I've had that idea as well. It's funny, isn't it, Per, that let's make a little diorama from a military print. Brilliant. And I think I know the guy. You're talking about as well. The in Italy, who's sculpting that. Because another guy I'm in contact with, who I'm doing some work for, he commissioned the same chap. I'm sure it was him, to do some characters from Arnhem. So he's got 6 of the officers that were at Arnhem.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, he commissioned him to do that, and thankfully, I've managed to bag a set of those figures. I'm just going to paint something for him in return, basically. But yeah, that's brilliant. And they're amazing figures, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you think about it, it's and they cost something, but compared to what it would take me to sculpt, or what I charge myself out for per hour is nothing.
Yeah, they are. They're beautiful little things. So my third positive is a personal one as well, and that was the Hammerhead show in March, just before the lockdown happened, and there was a lot of talk coming up to that show about whether it was going to go ahead and not. And actually, we were talking last time in November when I was on about the Zulu War project I was doing at the time, the Isandwana game. And I'd spent probably a year or so painting up all these. I mean, I did 4,000 Zulus and all the sort of units involved and all the scenery, and I was gutted that it wasn't going to go ahead because I'd booked this table, big 16-foot table. Anyway, it did go ahead, and I think what made it more special is the fact that, well, two things: A, that it was the last show really of this year. So, I mean, that just brought home all the things why I do what I do, really. It's about this in the last time. I spent a lot of time painting, making terrain on my own, and getting out to the shows is the one time I can just share all that with people and let them play that game on with my figures and my terrain and everything. It was great. So the fact that show went ahead was good, but the icing on the cake was that it was another win for the 6mm. Really, I won the most aesthetically pleasing game at the show. So
Brilliant, well done.
The feather in the 6mm.
Yeah, it's great to see these games getting recognition and all the hard work paying off. Certainly, I can't remember why I didn't get to the show, to be honest. I must have been working, but the last show I attended was, I think it was the week after Hammerhead, which was the West Midlands modelling show in Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
Which is a show, Allenwell, it used to be called.
Yeah.
But I've been going to that show for 30 odd years, and that was the last one that I've been to. Certainly missing the shows and looking forward to getting back to them. But yeah, that's great. I saw the pictures, obviously, of the Sandalwana game, and it's something I'm most interested in. So actually, you've just reminded me there that you and Alex have both got something in common, and you've both painted up the armies for Waterloo, because that was one of your first big projects, wasn't it, Dan? And that took you several years, and Alex took 4 years, I think, with yours.
I certainly did. I still haven't finished because I haven't got the Prussians yet, so I'm only 2/3 of the way through.
Come on, Alex, sort it out.
I'm waiting for backers to open their cart properly. That's all.
What you need is a little back door into the back of the cart, but that's another tale. No, 9 years it took me, but on and off I was at
9
uni.
years.
Yeah, I was at uni.
Right.
Well, so
how many individual figures is yours?
10,000. I did it 1 to 20, so I'd got 50,000. Yeah, there's about 50,000 Prussians, 72,000 French, 69,000 British. Yeah, I did it. I got about 10,000. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently on, I think, 7,000. That's for the British and the French.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So you must have done it on a similar thing. But it is that holy grail, I think, isn't it? I mean.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wanted to do it since I was 12.
Yeah, I've seen Waterloo.
Dancing Queen than Waterloo, personally, but.
Well played.
Yeah, very good, very good. I like it. Smooth.
Yes, they're both. I've only seen pictures of both of them, but they are both incredible projects. Are yours Adler, Dan?
The Napoleonics, when I did that, when I did Waterloo, Bacchus was pretty much just starting out, and they didn't have a full range at the time, and Adler did. So I went with Adler. I mean, I do love Adler anyway, as back.
Yes.
Oh, they're lovely figures, aren't they?
I mean, I still, I just can't get enough painting horses. I can't stop. Adler horses are amazing. But that's another tale. Yeah, brilliant stuff, brilliant. So I did Adler, yeah, 10,000. So the Zulus, but Bacchus's range of colonial figures is just as sweet. So, and I know you've just got a load of Zulus, haven't you?
I have. They are on the pile of shame, though. Unfortunately, I've been distracted somewhat with the Civil War project. So.
Well, yeah. The Agrat Earthshade is your friend there.
I love that. You're a big fan of that, aren't you?
Drink it by the gallon.
I got through pots and pots of that.
Yeah.
I have to say, gentlemen, I'm on Pear's side, actually. I'm a Winsor & Newton Nut Brown man. However, I'm right at the bottom of my third pot over the last 3 months. So I'm feeling I need to get an order in, but it's probably going to be in the new year now.
Well, I'm privy to the sort of slagging off. Really, we shouldn't slag anybody off. It's a positive podcast, but that product from Games Workshop, I think, is probably my go-to product for 2020. Once you discover it, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, it is excellent. I've got a couple of pots of it myself. I think it's great.
I'm not into this whole speed painting because primarily I'm a painter, as you know. So wargaming is just a happy coincidence of my sort of history in painting, really. But that is a product that I would say is, get that in. Brilliant.
Right, Alex, over to you for your third one, please.
My third one's pretty personal, I suppose. It's my YouTube channel. I can't not mention it, really. I started this year. I set it up, well, it's almost 2 years ago now. I set it in January in 2019 with not really much idea of a direction for it. And I was just looking at my analytics. And at the end of last year, in this time last year, I think I had 382 subscribers. At the end of this year, I've got 3,077.
Incredible.
So it's got massive. It's absolutely gone. I mean, a large part of that has got to be due to the lockdown, I think, because people were just turning to new ways of entertaining themselves, and I think it's really taken off from that. I think also because I've really filtered it down to historical wargaming rather than a bit more scattershot of board gaming and wargaming that I did last year. It's a much more historical wargaming now, but it's really led on to a lot of other good things as well. I mean, not only the subscribers, but like we were talking about Twitter and things, about how that has the presence on that has increased as well. And also it's led on to, me being invited onto various podcasts, yours included, Sean. I think you were one of the first ones that had me on as a guest, and I was absolutely bowled over when you asked me. And it's, it's just gone on from that. People keep asking me to talk about various things, really.
You've been involved around quite a few now, haven't you, Alex?
Yeah, and Alex also become like a voice actor as well for on an American show, yeah?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. That's right, for Little Wars, yeah. Again, just really off the back of the channel. So, from my point of view, that's a massive positive, really. I just think,
for dead.
Alex, I just caught the Blucher game you did at Waterloo, and the brilliant stuff. Yeah, I'm not YouTube again. It's new to me. Tube new, whatever it is, Bookface and all that. But yeah, the Blucher, just running through the rules of it, because I tweak the rules and things, and it's brilliant that. Yeah, and Quatre Bras and all that.
Yeah, well, it was a chance to get those figures onto the board as much as anything else. The solo games I've been playing, and they've been really, people have really taken to them, and it's just a chance for me to play some games while we're locked down, because I've only seen my mates that I normally game with, twice during this entire year. So face to face gaming is completely out, and it was just a chance to explore various rule sets from my point of view. And as I say, other people seem to enjoy watching people play games. And this is quite funny. Speaking of Little Wars, they had a podcast just the other day, and it was one of the guys from Mini War Games, the big YouTube channel. They're mainly 40k and stuff, Games Workshop games. But I can't remember who he was, but he was talking about why people watch games, and he when they were setting up their YouTube channel, when I was setting mine up, one of the things I was thinking was, why would anybody want to watch me play games? But it's the same as sports, isn't it? People watch football in their millions. They watch football matches, but they're not playing in them; they're just watching them. It's exactly the same. You're watching somebody else go through the motions of doing something you're interested in, and it's really taken off, as I say, from my point of view, from my YouTube channel, and I'm absolutely bowled over by the response I had from it. Really,
I mean, if we've got breakdancing in the Olympics, why not wargame?
Well, yeah, it's the next thing, isn't it? Let's petition for that, shall we?
Well, Alex, it's been amazing to follow the growth of your channel. I've been a long-time follower of your blog, actually, Storm of Steel, and we've talked about this before, where I was influenced by your square bashing game of the Battle of the Somme from back in 2016. And I used that as influence for a game I did myself using square bashing. To see the channel grow over the last 12 months has been fantastic. The content that you put out there is really good. And you make a good point there. It was the guy's called Matthew from Miniature Wargaming. There's him and a guy called Dave that run that channel, which has been going for years, and I've followed it for on and off for a number of years. And that's their business. They run that channel, and that they make a living out of it. But I think when you're talking about Games Workshop, you're talking about a different demographic, and you're talking about different economics, aren't you, entirely?
Completely. I mean, wargaming is a niche. Historical wargaming is even more of a niche within that niche. You're really paring it down. I'm small fry, compared to mini wargaming. If I was doing more 40k stuff, I'd probably have a lot more subscribers because there's a lot more people interested in that, and it's very accessible. But I'm very happy with where I am.
Yeah.
With what is basically a hobby channel that I try to make content that I would enjoy watching. That's what it comes down to.
And so you should be really proud of what you've done, because over 3,000 followers is a fantastic achievement. I follow quite a few of the other YouTube channels that do focus on the Games Workshop model, and the viewing figures that they get are just astounding. There's one called Midwinter Miniatures, which I follow just for the painting, really, the painting tips.
Yeah.
Have you watched any of those, Alex?
I know of him, yeah. They come up as suggestions, and I've watched quite a few of them, yeah. Like you say, I'm not particularly interested in the subjects, but it's the techniques that they use and things like that. They're transferable completely to historical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't hide the fact that I've dipped in and out of the Games Workshop hobby over the last 30 years, and I have an interest in the fantasy and science fiction side of the hobby as well. But I think the point I'm making is that guy from March, I think he started his channel. He's now full-time YouTube, because the Games Workshop model and the following of that hobby, of that aspect of the hobby, is so great. The reach is so far and wide that this guy can give up his full-time job. And he's making something. I think he put up an episode of his channel the other day and said he's making something like $6,000 a month on a good month.
Wow, I should go over to Games Workshop.
But I mean, that's quite incredible, isn't it? And I appreciate that there's costs involved, and he doesn't always make $6,000 a month, but he's on a real uptick in his viewership at the moment. So, and he goes on hits, I think, or views that when you monetize these channels. So, but it's very difficult, I think, for a historical channel to break into that sort of level, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the biggest one is by far, I would say, is Little Wars TV.
Yeah.
And, they have, I think it's something like 25,000 subscribers. Maybe
Right.
it's more. I can't remember. I did check it the other day. But, that is a huge amount for a historical wargaming site compared to, like I said, the Games Workshop stuff, where they've got, where Mini Wargames have got something like 350,000 subscribers. So it just shows you, the complete difference in the amount of people that are watching those or looking for that. But then I think that might change as well, though, over the next few years, because a lot of people who are generally older, who are into historical wargaming, have probably turned more towards YouTube. And I've noticed, even in this last year, that a few more channels have started that are specifically historical wargaming. And I don't know if this is partly because of lockdown or whatever, or people just realise they can do this stuff. It's relatively simple now to put videos on YouTube. If you've got a smartphone, you can do it very simply. And I've noticed that quite a few have actually started off. It's almost as though it's becoming the new blog, I guess. But I think when people realise how much work is actually involved in it, they probably they might drop off pretty quickly.
That's really interesting stuff. I had somebody saying that I should start a crowd fund, and then I could give up work as well and just paint. But I don't know what a crowd fund is.
Well, there's a thing called Patreon, which I've set up, and I know you have one as well, don't you, Sean?
Yes.
Per very, very kindly donates money to me. I don't know why.
Holy shit! That's what I need to get involved with.
Yeah, well, Dan, I run out of money now, so you won't get anything free. Yeah?
Go on,
I've got to embrace this new technology. I can see.
Yeah, well, exactly. We'll see. There might be a competition there. I might have to sit and weigh. Yeah.
So you get some money this month.
Well, you have to get a little smoother voice then to kind of beat Alex. Yeah, I mean, he does voiceovers and stuff. Yes. But it is great. And also, what has happened, Alex, is that I think that you have, as you say, you focused your offer as well. So it's not just lockdown, but I think it is, as you say, it is your production is more kind of focused and I guess it's as you do it, you get kind of it's kind of professional, as well. I especially like your kind of historical overviews of a campaign. It feels almost like a prelude to kind of a battle, and I think maybe one thing you could do moving forward is to also then play those battles, and then do a combined kind of, an hour of talking and playing it, But yeah, maybe give me a discount next month for that idea.
Brilliant.
Well, you can give yourself a discount by just stopping paying me.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Yeah,
that's the easiest discount. But yeah, no, that's a really good idea. Actually, it's that's worthwhile thinking about. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it is. I have become more focused in this last year. When I started the channel, I was doing mainly board games because that was the kind of stuff I was watching on YouTube. And to be honest, 2 years ago, I was thinking, how can you even do historical wargaming on YouTube? And I just didn't have an idea as to how to do it. And it's kind of fallen into place through doing a lot of solo gaming through the lockdown, because I did that video about solo wargaming because I used to solo wargame when I was a kid more so. And then I thought, well, off the back of that, I may as well at least show people how to solo war game if I'm talking about it. So, here's me playing a game solo. Just to, I think it was one of the Blue Shoe ones, was one of the first ones. And yeah, it's, like you say, I think it is. It's more just that commitment to the historical wargaming side of it than a scattergun approach that I had previously.
And also, sorry for that, Phil, but there is we were talking about the Lord magazine before. It's the latest issue is just out, and it's amazing stuff in there. I mean, you produce something there, and as well, but also there is a lot of solo wargaming stuff being discussed there, and it's really like I really recommend anyone to buy that the Lord magazine, but also to follow up on these different solo gaming that people do, and because it is actually really fun once you kind of get into it, and it's not just like you kind of playing with yourself, so to speak. It can actually give you quite a lot of insight.
Oh,
Rules and
yeah,
so forth.
absolutely. I'm a big advocate of it. I mean, like I say, when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of solo war games, but it kind of dropped off more as I got into an adult. But I've got really back into it again this last year. It's just, there's so many options you have with it, really.
Yeah, I think that whole lockdown just has played into the whole solo thing, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
And
Definitely.
did you just say you were playing with yourself?
No, yes. Did I? Yes, probably.
Yeah.
It's not good you having doing it with someone you love, yeah.
Alex, I know that you do quite a lot of the Lardy games, or certainly Iron Being Shot Mom and Chain of Command. I was refraining myself from saying cock, but you've done a bulging cock, haven't you? Something. I don't know what that refers to.
I have a bulging cock coming out towards the end of this week. That will be revealed all to see on Christmas Eve.
Brilliant.
I thought just last weekend. I thought, let's do a Christmas special. What better battle than the Battle of the Bulge? It's fought over Christmas. It's one of the most famous Christmas battles, isn't it? I did think about doing the fall of Hong Kong because that also surrendered on 25th of December as well. But I went with the Battle of the Bulge. And,
that's a really good segue into the next bit. I was just wondering though if you'd ever considered something like 100 Years' War, Agincourt, that sort of thing.
Well, not really. I know Henry V's speech at Agincourt and stuff, but I've never really seen much beyond Kenneth Branagh giving his talk. And I've actually visited Agincourt as well, and I did think about the War of the Roses and that kind of 100 Years War stuff, but it's not really in my eye line, I don't think.
No. Agincourt's just a muddy field.
Crispin Day, though. Oh,
What was that, Dan?
we love a bit of St. Crispin's Day, don't we? Especially
we do. We'll St. Crispin's Day.
we haven't mentioned the fact that it's the shortest day as well, have we? Today.
Oh, it is.
The winter solstice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Winter solstice, yes. So I hope you're burning your Yule logs and making sacrifices.
Happy winter solstice.
Everybody.
My favorite kind of Christmas battle, or one of the many ones, I think is the the Delaware crossing and the Continental Army kind of fatigued and then beats the Hessians. And especially, I know, I'm sorry, I always come back to the fact there is that painting by Mac Barron, Battle of Trenton, where the Continental Army is kind of running through the town and all those dead Hessians and the cannons and the snow. I mean, it doesn't get more epic than that, does it? Just kind of curious why there isn't more blood in those Hessians, because they certainly lie down like they intended to die. So it's kind of, but I guess it's some kind of stylistic choice there not to make it too bloody.
That's brilliant. Is that the 1776, isn't it? George Washington crossing the Delaware.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the Germans were hung over.
Yeah, well, they didn't expect some maniac to get over there, So, it's a typical Swedish maneuver against the Danes. Walk over the ice over to Denmark and crush them. That's it.
I love that. Yeah, that reminds me of that. I was looking. So I know you're gonna talk about the sort of Christmas battles and December battles. And that 1864 in the American Civil War, Fort Fisher, and they loaded a ship up with explosives, and they were gonna sail it into the harbour at Fort Fisher, blow up the fort, and actually it just blew up beforehand and just blew the boat up. didn't damage the fort.
Whoever set the fuses must have got sacked. Have you ever seen the film The Crossing? With, I think it's Jeff Daniels who plays Washington, but it covers the crossing of the Delaware and the Battle of Trenton.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a great film.
Not seen it.
It's well, if it's on late one night over Christmas, it's worth a watch, but I wouldn't make too much effort to seek it out.
But I mean, the on Christmas battles, I recently, talking about Twitter, sent out a tweet and basically said, "Show me your Christmas battles," and it's become one of the most popular tweets I sent out, and so many people engaged in it. So clearly, there is this fascination of putting on, like a basically a white field with soldiers on, fighting it out. And for me, the one I haven't done yet, Great Northern War, is the battle at Narva in 1700. And it's not Christmas time, but it's kind of November. And the Swedes are kind of 10,000 versus 40,000 Russians. So about fair odds. And the Russians, of course, as they did and didn't do in Poltava, and perhaps that's what they want. They actually stay back in their fortifications. And there is, back to this guy I talked about before, Stenbock, with Dalregementet, which happens to be the county where I'm from, who kind of breaches it. But what happens there is that there is this snow that just basically blows up, and it starts snowing, and it blows in the direction of the Russians. And you can almost see that kind of attack the Swedes do, in that weather that we all love from up there, and just hurraying ourselves over the, and attacking the Russians and taking Narva back, And so for me, it's that snow, and maybe it's the time of the year, and the fact, as we said before, I'm looking out and just seeing misery. But there is something special with that snow. But the backside, of course, is the fact that there's a lot of accounts about soldiers in the field during winter, which is quite sad to read. And one of the biggest, individual loss of human life in Swedish history actually has to do with winter and when we were fighting in Norway. So our king, 1718, was shot in Norway, and basically the campaign was kind of just basically stopped. And there were a big, Swedish army who marched over the Norwegian fields. And if you just imagine the fact that it's been quite a mild winter, and then suddenly you have this enormous snowstorm coming up, and so we have about over 3,000 Swedish soldiers who died, in a matter of days up on in that mountain. Yeah. So I think Christmas and war is kind of a mixed blessing, I guess. Yeah. So it's the romantic side of the, MacBaron painting versus perhaps the real, toil that winter has taken on soldiers over all these years. Yeah. To reflect on as well.
Totally. I mean, talking about the English Civil War, of course, it's that famous sort of we banned Christmas in 1647. And I was reading about what the troops were up to, and on Christmas Day, and they had to go around and break into people's houses and stop them cooking Christmas dinner.
Oh my God.
That's what the troops actually did, in 1647. So we're talking about, you look at the news now and it's all this, what are we going to do for Christmas? And it's, all this doom and gloom. But actually, 1647, they banned Christmas and they stopped you cooking the turkey.
Well, Boris hasn't said that yet, but I think he's pretty much done everything else.
Not far off.
Not far off. Although I'm hoping the police don't go knocking on doors on Christmas Day.
They might do.
They might do. They might do. Have you ever done a snow battle, Dan?
Yes. Well, only I say I have.
Other than Hoth.
It was only Hoth. It was only half, and that's because I just wanted to spray up some white stuff and make an impact with the half, because that was an obsession of mine when I was little. But, I've not done any other snow ones, but I mean, I was looking at some other sort of Christmas battles. If we're moving on to that, and I know that was part of the thing, but I mean, Operation Linebacker 2. Do we know about that?
Nope.
Well,
name rings a
basically,
bell.
that was 1972 in Vietnam, and they called it. They sort of nicknamed it the 11 Days of Christmas, which is bad, really. And they dropped 15,000 tons of bombs in that 11 days.
Sheesh.
So you kind of think to yourself, okay, we can't have Christmas dinner together. We can't all sit around the table, but we ain't got 15,000 tons of bombs.
Yeah, that's one of the realities of life, isn't it? And everything's in perspective, isn't it? And relative to your own experience. But we haven't got 15,000 tons of bombs landing on us. There's actually been one or two things over Twitter where a picture has been, I don't know if anyone's seen this actually, a picture was posted of First World War troops in a trench. Alex, have you seen this?
Really? Yes, I did see it. I'm going to wait to see what you say before I say something.
So one of my previous guests, historian Paul Reed, pointed this out, that there's a picture going round and it's troops in a trench, and the headline of it is, if you think Christmas is bad now, at least you're not back in Christmas 1914 in the trenches. But the picture that is used is actually troops in Gallipoli in the summer of 1915, which loses the point somewhat. And interestingly, a friend of mine who's a teacher and doesn't listen to this podcast, but, well, I don't think he does, but he posted this picture. And I did point out that actually that picture's got nothing to do with Christmas. I understand the sentiment, but check your facts, obviously. In a nice way. It wasn't in a sort of bolshy way. And I got called a pedant for it, which I thought was a little bit harsh from a teacher, because I'm sure if one of his pupils handed in a piece of work with some bad research behind it, and then I think he might have pointed it out.
Yeah, I've seen it going round, and it's even friends of mine who should know better have been sharing it. And I just think, surely you can see the pith helmets, if nothing else. You see the fact that they're not wearing the same equipment, and you're meant to be a First World War historian. What's wrong with you? But yeah, these things keep coming around a lot. I was actually, speaking of Christmas battles, I was reading today, just doing a bit of homework on this, and I didn't realise, but the Germans' second air raid in the First World War was on Christmas Eve.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they flew over Britain and dropped a load of bombs then. So completely different to what was happening in the trenches the next day, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, crikey, I didn't know that. That's some welcome into Christmas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The positive is that they all had a truce, didn't they?
Well, not all of them, no.
No, not all of them. No, come on. Come on. Let's keep it positive.
You want to read what the Grenadier Guards did?
I could
Christmas
go on
Day.
about the Battle of Ardeen, the Battle of the Bulge on the December the 16th, where 2,000 tanks were fighting. But let's look at the positive.
There was something like, I think there was 100 plus combat casualties on Christmas Day in 1914.
Shocking, isn't it? Shocking. It is shocking.
Yeah.
And this is what
it wasn't a full truce.
And this is what gets me when people are saying, I can't sit next to my daughter or whatever at Christmas dinner. You think, well, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that bad.
Yeah, I mean, yes, indeed.
Tell me all about the football match then, Alex, that took place between the trenches.
Any scant evidence for? Yeah, there's a couple of anonymous letters in newspapers. There's so little evidence for it.
We know who would have won. Germany on penalties, obviously, but
yeah, well, depending if they had a Swedish captain of the company, yeah.
Exactly. I think the pair is there is something about a snowy battlefield, isn't there? You won't remember meeting me, but I remember meeting you. You were a hero of mine back then when you put on I think it was Freistadt
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
at the Joy of Six
yeah,
with that snowy battlefield.
yeah. I'm quite happy with that. I'm not sure how it's aged though. I'm scared of opening up because I used a lot of organic material for it, like moss and thing, to that I dyed with PVA glue and things. I'm just scared it's kind of been come alive in the box or something.
Well, that brings a whole new perspective to your mutant theme, Per.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. You never know. You never know. So I'm going to dust it off one day because I kind of want to. It's. I spent relatively so much more time on that than anything else, and of course, skill wasn't the same. But I really put my heart into it, and I really enjoyed it. And there's some really weird use of scenic water there under to create the ice effect, which kind of went kind of yellowish within 2-3 days. And I tried to frantically cover it up. Should have hacked it out really, but we'll see. We'll see how it looks like. But yeah, that's quite a good one. Yeah.
I remember that pair. I do remember that at the joystick. It was a great one.
It's a great one. I'm just waiting for somebody to come up with the joke about yellow snow, but you've all let me down. His board turns yellow. Okay, let's. That's great. That's a lovely look at battles over the Christmas and festive period, or snowy battles, which always brings back images of Yuletide. Let's have a look, a little glimpse. I know we're running a little bit long. I did warn you, gentlemen, that we might run slightly long. I do apologise if you've got hot dates to get to or warm dinners that are in the oven waiting for you. Let's just have a little glimpse into what we hope for in 2021. I think we all hope, obviously, that COVID will become a thing of the past and other issues that are affecting this nation of ours might get resolved one way or another. But let's just have a look at what projects maybe or things that we're looking to hobby related or in the year 2021. Let's just have one from each of you, please, if you don't mind. Per, have you got anything that is on the cards for yourself for 2021?
I bought a 3D printer.
Ooh.
And it's been standing. Yeah, it's been standing here doing shit all. Sorry for swearing, but for about 4 weeks or whatever. And I really would like to get some time to kind of. I don't want to kind of just spend half an hour trying to set it up because I'm just scared I'll poison myself drinking resin or something. But I kind of want to spend a little bit of time to get that up and running. And what I like with the 3D printer is because it's not, you can't kind of, well, the model I have make massive things, but 6mm stuff probably is brilliant to do it. I mean, I have had, Paul Edwards helping me doing 3D prints, and really, I think he got tired of me asking him to print stuff. So he said to me, "Why don't you buy yourself your own?" Yeah, and so that's my kind of big project, and I want to kind of try to weave it out in trying to create something epic, in terms of my next little surprise idea, which is a Great Northern War that I might have talked about with some.
You do surprise me, Per.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. So anyway, so really, I mean, for me, the end of this year, thank you for the music, will be the fact that I want to get into the 3D printing. Yeah.
Oh, good. Is it a resin one or one of these, the other type?
It's a resin one, so it's smelly, and I'm a little bit scared about that. So that's why I don't want to kind of get it going and then realize that I kind of, it's not so much myself. I can live with the poison. I'm just scared that the family will be a little bit, painting with Vallejo paints doesn't really smell, so I don't want to introduce the hobby with a negative, by it all smelling resin everywhere. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting this the development of this 3D printing. I've got a friend who's got the other kind. I don't know what it's called actually, but it's the non-resin version. But I don't know if any of you are aware of the YouTube channel Project Wargaming. A guy called Aaron.
Yeah.
He's due on the show in the new year. He sent me over a few samples of the samurai figures that he's been working on, and some snake fencing actually for my Civil War project. And it's really good. It is really good. It's a really interesting development, I think, into the future of the hobby.
But you can make your snake, those fences with very thin spaghetti as well, yeah?
Oh, God. Do you know, I've been racking my bleeding brains about how to do that. And I do remember seeing it on your blog years ago.
I can send them to you. I will never use them. I'll send them to you and you can have them.
Life's too short for making fences out of spaghetti.
Because it's much cheaper than buying Plastistruct or whatever it's called, or
True. It's true.
metal rods. Yeah,
It's not an American Civil War battle if it's not got yards and yards of snake fencing on it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Do you know GM board games do a lovely little resin snake fence?
That's right. They're the guys who 3D print, aren't they? Their figures
He
from Poland.
sorted me out with a load of them actually when I was doing the Gettysburg thing. But, they're lovely. They're lovely.
How many layers are there? How many logs or whatever you call it? Is it
3? I think it's 3 or 4.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm looking at these now. These are 4 on the ones that Aaron sent over from Project Wargaming.
Well, then they are better than mine. One level better than my handmade one in spaghetti. Yeah.
They don't taste as good as pears.
It depends what kind of sauce you put with them, I suppose. But
Yeah. Yeah, you just blow up the static grass and get at it. That's no problem.
yeah. Right, thank you. I'll look forward to whatever it is that you come up with there, Per. Dan, what project or wargaming related thing are you looking forward to in the year 2021?
Did you say project or projects?
Well, you can go through multiple. That's fine.
Yeah. So basically, I'll be finishing the Sudan project that I've done, the cartoon, and hopefully showcasing that Hammerhead, which has changed the date now, and it's I think it's in July. It was March, so I had a bit of a panic on to finish everything. But it's given me a few more months to paint more dervishes. So I'll be doing the Sudan project at Hammerhead. I'll be doing the Little Bighorn battle, hopefully at Joy of Six. I mean, we've not talked about that, but Bacchus, the new range there that's coming out is lovely.
Pony Wars, yeah.
Pony Wars range. I've been lucky that Peter asked me to paint some of the stuff, so I've had a sort of before release date, and I've seen the figures and the wagon, everything. It's a lovely little range, that. So I'll be doing that. It's just so much to be done. I mean, Sudan, I'm trying to write the rules for. They don't like it up. Yeah, they don't like it up. Little Bighorn, I'm doing Counting Coup, which I'll be adapting the rules from the Hordes and Heroes again, the Calestia, because the hex thing. That makes things quicker. Projects for next year. I'm really excited. I've just ordered and I got not a text, an email today from Charles Roundtree to tell me that the All Hell Let Loose has been dispatched. So I'm very excited about the World War II rules there. I think have you been playtesting them?
I haven't been playtesting, but I do have a copy of the rules that have been sent through for a little review, which will be coming up. I think David, the author, I think he's got a Polish sounding name that I'm not going to try and pronounce.
I'm really excited about those actually for next year. So I've had a sort of World War II DJ and also the Arnhem campaign on a back burner for a number of years, really. I've just been looking for some rules that I could use at a show, and I think All Hell Let Loose is going to be the one. So I'm excited about that.
I think they might fit the bill, Dan, definitely.
Yeah, and I've also just ordered, I know he's been on a couple of times, Peter Riley's building rules for wargaming.
Yes.
Which is great, actually. I read that and I thought, this is ticking all the boxes for me. I mean, he uses the sort of Hexon terrain to speed things up. It's a sort of at a show game, participation game basis. And my next project for 2021, I'll finish Sudan, I'll finish the Little Bighorn, and I'm going to start the Gettysburg. I've done the battlefield. I know that's a thing that you're into, isn't it, Sean? So I've done the battlefield.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've done the battlefield. I've been in touch with Mr. Locke at Adler, and so that's going to be the big thing for 2021. I think is getting the Gettysburg. I'm trying to do it on a scale that I did the Waterloo game, but hopefully it won't take me 9 years to finish. I'll crack on. So there's all sorts of things, really. So yeah, there's the Sudan, the cartoon game. There's the Battle of Little Bighorn, Pony Wars that I'm doing with Peter, and then there's All Hell Let Loose with Charles and David, and then there's the Building Rules of Gaming with Peter. Really, that's 2021.
I'm going to be pretty busy by the sound of it.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
One thing, guys, on talking about Peter Riley's rules, he also it's a hidden gem there as well, which I recommend anyone who's interested in tanks to check out, and that's his fire and move armor rules, and it's kind of platoon-based tank combat, and my son kind of plays it, and he's kind of said he's looking forward to have a game with me. He said they were really good, so. Believe it from a 12-year-old reading a set of rules, thinking they are brilliant. That's a good recommendation, I think. So we're going to play that in the next few days. So bought him a set.
Peter Riley really has. He's got his finger on the pulse. I remember when I first went, the first ever Joy of Six show I did a Zulu war game. I did Eisendrana actually, and we used Peter's rules there. Which hadn't been published and never have been actually, but they're brilliant. And he's very much the same sort of lines as me. He's got the hexes, he speeds it up. It's all for a participation game, and yeah, so I can recommend those Building Rules for Gaming. They're generic. You can use them for any period. Great stuff.
Never having been a rule writer myself, I've picked up the core book, the Building Rules for Battles, and the Bighorn pack as well. And never having written rules myself, it's something that has really piqued my interest. And again, I think I've mentioned this before about trying to do Rorke's Drift with it. So that's something that I'll be looking at. But yeah, I really like the work Peter's done. Per, I think he's actually starting on the infantry side of things now as well to go along with the armor rules that he's written.
Yeah, I like it because I read some of the stuff, and as you say, that I've had the pleasure of reading his unpublished War of the Roses rules as well, and which equally fantastic. So he's kind of a hidden gem, and I'm really happy that he's kind of getting out there a little bit more, Peter, with these rules, because it's back to this thing that Peter has this intense knowledge. I mean, like fire drill, etc. We used to talk about, colonial times, etc., and so on, and how they were fighting. I'm talking about, of course, the British colonial, not the Dark Age colonial era, but in terms of how they fought, etc. And it's that same level of engagement you get when you listen to someone like Richard Clarke and so on. Someone actually doesn't create necessarily, games based on, rolling a few dice and then hoping that someone dies on the other side, but actually tries to recreate something
Yeah.
in a fun but realistic way, and that's I like that. I warms to that,
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole focus is obviously on the whole participation game, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
He picks a battle, say Little Bighorn, for instance. He won I think he won Best in Show at Partisan for that, didn't he?
Salute it was.
Yeah, Salute was it? Yeah. I mean, that's great. That's the sort of thing that we want to do, really. I mean, I've tweaked the sort of rules a bit. Tweaked the rules for the Little Bighorn. I've called it what have I called? Counting Coop. Counting Coop.
Very thematic.
Yeah. I've also done A Good Day to Die, which is the sort of the Pony Wars. Pony Wars. I mean, the Native Americans, they were all about counting coop. The U.S. cavalry, it was all about the Die Hard, wasn't it? How are you gonna do that?
I've seen how you've done that, Dan. That's
Despite the fact, Sean, that I have had COVID, and so's my partner. It's still a wonderful life.
It is. I agree. Dan, thank you for that peek into the life of yourself in the year 2021, and well played, sir. Well played.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to do Gettysburg as well, just to pique your interest. I know that's your bag. Gettysburg, Adler figures. That's going to be 2021.
I'll look forward to that. I'll look forward to your progress on that. No doubt you'll get it knocked out in about 6 months. Right. Alex, tell me about 2021.
Well, for me, it's pretty simple, to be honest. I'm probably just going to be concentrating on growing my YouTube channel. That's going to be my overall project. Just see where that takes me. Again, just to go back to the YouTube stuff. That's about it, really. I've got some ideas for doing some more World War II and expanding it into Western theatres. I want to do some Italian campaign stuff. I've already started building up some British 15mm figures for that. So got a few bits and pieces. I'm adding to that as we go along. Also looking again back at Malaya is my another particular favourite of mine when it comes to wargaming. So I've been adding some more Indians for that recently. So yeah, it's just see where my fancy takes me, I guess, at this point. Like I say, it's, I don't like to set goals. I like to meander along within the parameters of the hobby that I like,
I think sometimes it's good not to have those plans, isn't it? And just go where, because obviously we're talking about plans for next year, but they can change. You can have the plan at breakfast time, and then by lunchtime you're onto something completely different.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not really a wargaming butterfly. I kind of stick within the wars that I'm interested in, and I try not to get too distracted by lots of different projects. But I can have a bit of an overall idea of what I want to do. But like you say, just things change so quickly anyway. You never really know, do you? I want to play more solo games on the YouTube channel, really, and show off different rules. That's kind of where my head is at the moment. That's what's taking me. That's what's taking my quantity anyway.
Well, I look forward to more battles next year. It should be great. I've thoroughly enjoyed the Malaya campaign. I thought that was brilliant. And if you're moving into the Ardennes then as well, then I'll look forward to that.
Well, that one's a one-off. I mean, it might be more Italy. I think might be my next campaign to look at.
Yeah. Just quickly, my own project for next year. I posted quite a bit about my American Civil War project, which it's really tanked along at quite a pace. Really, I hadn't really done much on it up until the middle of October. Virtually nothing actually, but since middle of October to now, I've painted close on 2,000 figures, which has been a real bonus again of the lockdown period. Not that I've been at home, I've been working through lockdown, but with having no club and no other activities, and then it's really allowed me to concentrate and focus in on the project. So I'm really pleased that I've managed to get through those figures. I picked up a few Avladan, so that tissue paper that comes with the figures resonates with me. I think they're lovely sculpts, and there's a lot of animation in those figures, isn't there, that is really appealing. I've also picked up a few rapier miniatures, just for a bit of variety in the artillery crews, really, with the Bacchus ones, but they're very nice as well, and to be highly recommended. But next year it will be, once the figures are painted for this project, the Antietam project, then it's full steam ahead for my Somme game, which hopefully will be at the Joy of Six, if all being well, if the show goes ahead. So I've got the vast majority of the figures ready for that. I've got plans on how to do the scenery. I've got the trenches from Timecast, which Robert Dunlop has got huge amounts of, and really taught me around, or persuaded me that that's the way to go with the trenches. So I've been enjoying doing the research on that, but come the new year, I really want to get stuck into getting paint onto figures for that. Okay, gentlemen, that's most of the schedule done, actually, but I just wonder if we could have the last few minutes of this episode just talking in the any other business section of the schedule I sent through. It's really open for discussion, but I don't know if all of you are aware of the news that came out yesterday from Warlord Games about their new epic scale figures in plastic, and they've gone for the American Civil War.
Oh yes, I'm very aware of that.
I know you are, Alex. We've communicated in a scale which is somewhere between 12 and 15 mil. There's a little bit of debate because nobody's actually got any of these sprues in the hands yet, but they're certainly looking closer to the Callistra figures in the sort of 12 mil scale range, but in plastic. Per, have you seen any of this?
Yeah, I have, and I'll tell you what, it's like they're like big War Master miniatures, because they seem to be kind of produced in the same way as a kind of a wall of figures.
That's right.
And I'll tell you what, I'm kind of, I don't know what scale they are, etc., like everyone else. Interesting. I think it will be helped by the fact that I think if you pick up War Games Illustrated this month, you get to try them out, so to speak. Yeah. Again, they seem to sell a big set. You get, we talked about the fences. You get fences, a little house, and if you have the stamina to paint them all, you have a battle-ready force and so on. So, I mean, my immediate thing is that it's a new thing, and it will, they have a big, customer base, Warlord, that they managed to get people to play World War II inspired game, bolt action, and perhaps it's a good thing for historical wargaming from that point of view. But then you could argue, well, the scale, etc., will we fit with existing and so on? Can I buy this to kind of build up my army and so on? But price-wise, I mean, if you look at the price for it, it's very, the price is not very high, in the sense of you can build quite a big army with. I don't know what the unit price is, but you get quite a lot of army for 100 quid, yeah?
It works out I was trying to do some sums on it. It's slightly difficult because the sprue comes with 100 infantry, a gun with crew, and a mounted commander on each sprue. It works out somewhere in the region of 6 or 7 pence a figure, which is obviously 6 mil prices. Dan, have you picked up on this development?
Yeah. So it's all over Facebook at the minute. The last couple.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not convinced. So Callistra, I know Paul Callistra. He's been on the show. He does a beautiful range of 12 mil metal. You can buy 5 packs. You get a 6-pack free. It's the similar sort of price. They're all metal, metal miniatures. I'm a bit old school in the. I'm not into the plastic. I can see why people love it, and they're sort of marketing it as epic. Well, why don't you just go for Adler or Bacchus if you're going to go for epic? You can get more. It's going to look more epic. But so there's all those sort of negatives about it, if you want to call it negatives. But there's also the positive that, okay, let's get people away from the 28 mil. Let's get them smaller scale. Let's get them into this epic, as they call it, battle. So that's got to be a good thing. But, it's a bit like the sort of Waterloo thing. It's I don't know. I'm not convinced by it really, but then I'm old school. I'm old. I don't want to be negative.
It's just an old fart.
I don't want to be negative about it. I think it's great. Okay, let's rewind. It's brilliant, sure. It's absolutely.
I've told you I'm not editing.
It's absolutely brilliant. We've got a smaller scale. I'm all for the small scale. People are finally turning on to the small scale. You can have a bigger battle with a smaller scale. And if that's what you bring to the masses, then that's brilliant. And hopefully then they'll look at Bacchus and they'll look at Adler and go, actually, there's more detail on an Adler 6 mil figure than a 13.5 mil, figure in plastic. I just like the weight of a metal figure. I'm just old school.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with confessing to being old school. There's room for us all. Alex, Alex, I know that we've been involved in the same discussions, haven't we, over Twitter?
Yeah, I posted it on Twitter because my first thought was, well, this is fantastic. There's a good chance that they're going to be doing Napoleonics, which I'm more interested in than the ACW.
Yeah,
I'd be more than happy to start doing plastic Napoleonics because I'm surprised that nobody's done it in 15 mil.
Yeah,
it's crying out for it. I'm assuming they're doing ACW to test the market. In the first instance, and I think that I've noticed elsewhere people are talking that there's rumours that they're going to be doing other periods in this for their it's black powder, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the amount of people that have fallen on this, I mean, it's much ado about nothing when it comes to the scale, because it's. There's so many people saying, "Oh, they've said on their website that it's 15 mil, and it's 13.5 from foot to eye or something, which is the same scale as Peter Pig, who's been selling their stuff as 15 mil for the last 30 years.
Yeah,
and nobody's complained. then you've got this Callistra thing. They seem to fit with those. I'm fairly certain if you mix them with some other 15mm figures on a table, you're just not going to notice, from the 3-foot rule that most of us adhere to. To me, I just think it's a great way, like Dan said there, of getting people interested in other scales, because I'd say a lot of Warlord's base customers are 28mm gamers because of bolt action and because of black powder. And I'd also argue that probably a lot of the people that play purely Warlord stuff don't know much about other scales. So for them to introduce something else that people can buy, and again, all right, it might not fit with other existing scales, but there was a point when 6mm didn't exist. And the first person to have done that must have, maybe they got the same amount of abuse, that Warlords seem to be drawing about the fact they'd done a different scale, And is it Vitrix? They just started doing 10mm World War
12.
II?
Yeah, 12.
It's 12. Yeah, so it's, there's a precedent that has already been set for these smaller-ish scales. So I don't really see a particular issue in them coming up with a new scale that, they're a business. They want to sell figures to people. So why not make it exclusive to their own business? That's what I think, And the more, if it gets more people into the hobby, then I'm all for it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. You're not forced to buy them, are you? At the end of the day, there will be somebody that will buy them. Might not be me, might not be you, might not be any of us in this chat, but there will be people that buy them. And if they're new people to the hobby, then that's something. A box is ticked from, as far as I'm concerned.
Bravo.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, absolutely. And if it helps the recruitment of people into historical gaming, away from Warlords have done a great job, haven't they? Let's make no bones about it. From, I'm not sure how long they've been going, but I can remember them releasing their first Imperial Roman box set, and them having a tiny little stand at Partisan, to where they are now with dozens of plastic box sets of historical figures, which, let's face it, I'm not a big fan of the plastics myself. However, it's brought the cost down. You're paying about the same for a 28mm plastic figure as I was 20 or 30 years ago playing for a metal Dixon American Civil War figure. So that is great. And this idea of a game in a box as well, it's ideal. You don't need to go anywhere else. You've got something like 2,500 figures, haven't you, in the box?
It's crazy. And that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot in there, and people have been saying, oh, well, how would you ever paint those in, a lifetime? Already, the club that I joined recently, a local club, they've been talking about putting together for it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you get 6 people. It's only costing them like, what, 20 or 30 quid each for the big 170 quid starter set. And then everybody paints them. Yeah. And once you're breaking it down, then it sounds like 2,400 figures is a lot, split between 400. I've painted over 1,000 15mm figures this year, just on my own. It's a doable thing. It's a big job, but it's doable. And
I think I made the point that if it takes you 10 minutes to paint one figure, then it'll take you 500 hours or something. But these are molded together, aren't they? And I think you made the comment, if you treat one strip of 10 figures that are molded together as, it's probably the equivalent of a 28mm figure, isn't it? I guess, of the same surface area.
Absolutely, I think, and they lend themselves to a lot of washing. Basically, they put block colours on and wash them because they're on mass. You're not looking at detail.
No, and these are things that we've talked about in the past, but it's an interesting development.
It is. I mean,
absolutely.
I think it's all positive because it's getting people into a smaller scale. I mean, I'm a figure painter, so for me, he doesn't tick the box. But for a lot of people who just want to get some figures painted and on the table, and have a game, then they are.
Well, that's the thing as well.
They're the thing.
The fact that they're actually molded in grey and blue plastic. You don't have to paint them. I mean, most of us would probably balk at that idea. You know, we're all painters and we all want our painted figures on the table. But you could literally get them out of the box and have them playing that afternoon if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Just one point and I think I've converted into the positive column on this. I was certainly on the wire, I think, on the fence a little bit.
Yeah.
To be honest, but just one point. It seems an interesting decision to market them as 100-figure regiments. That's just, I mean, that I've never heard of that before. You know, even in 6mm, 100-figure regiments is a odd. It just seems an odd choice.
But we're so ingrained as wargamers into thinking in things of 4s. We all do it. I mean, Bacchus come in strips of 4s.
Yeah.
Why don't they come in 5s? What's the difference?
Yeah.
Why don't they come in 10s? It's all it is. It's just we're so ingrained in doing things in 4s that we all think it's weird. Whereas, 100 men in a regiment sounds about right, to be honest.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Absolutely right. And the thing about the whole Adler miniatures, you've got to split them to single figures, base them, and that gives you more. Somehow, it just gives you more options. I love Bacchus. I've got so many Bacchus figures. Peter, he's brilliant. But yeah, it's that sort of. It's just fitting it in, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, my Bacchus brigades are 16 men. Why are there 16 men?
Yeah,
why isn't it like
divisible by 4?
Yeah.
Why is it? It doesn't matter how many men are in because it's just a ratio, isn't it?
It is, and that's what I love about the whole building rules for gaming battles by Peter Riley, because it doesn't matter how many people you've got in a. It's that concept of a base, a little base. Doesn't matter how big the base is, 40 by 20, 30 by 60. If you Bacchus, it doesn't matter. It's just that's what a unit is, and that's what I like about the Peter Riley rules is that you can just make them up.
Yes, yeah. I think as being one of the on the older side of the wargaming demographic, it's just not something I've seen before. I've never seen figures advertised where you would collect them in regiments of 100 figures. It's just mind-blowing to me to think that the figures that I've been painting for my 6mm project, they've got probably 28 figures on the base, so 3 of those roughly is the equivalent. But that's 10 strips of figures, which I suppose is the equivalent of painting 10 28mm figures, potentially. I don't know, it's just a mindset, I think.
It is. We're for some reason, we just have this ingrained idea that everything should be in 4s. And everything is a multiple of 4, which I suppose 100 is anyway, because there's 25 4s in 100, so it's only like doing it like that, really.
These are in multiples of 10, which is, like you say, is odd. He doesn't conform to that, does it?
No, not at all. But I don't see why it shouldn't. Why does it have to conform to? You'd think, okay, there should be 8 men there, I guess. But why should it be 8 men? Why shouldn't it be 10?
Absolutely.
This is the thing, Dawn. I mean, I put the Bacchus strips up into 6. I'm not into 8.
Well, yes, each to their own, I guess.
That's weird.
Shall I tell you what's weird?
Go on.
Let me tell you something weird. People who base their figures before they paint.
What is all that?
I'm joking, Alex. I'm joking.
Right, I'm leaving.
No, I just it's an interesting topic of discussion because
yeah, absolutely.
For me, it's a game changer that Warlord have got the faith in, because molding plastic figures is very expensive, isn't it? It's hugely expensive.
It's a massive outlay, absolutely massive.
And they've obviously got confidence in this product. And there's this real splash release of that I think they sell brigade boxes. There's the £90 box and then the £180 all-in thing with the Gettysburg MDF buildings in it. And they look fantastic, absolutely. They look fantastic. I'm a little bit perturbed by the sky blue cuffs on the Confederate uniforms, but I'll let that pass. I won't be too much of a pedant over that. But it looks fantastic, and I think for a starter into historical gaming, then it's going to be difficult to beat.
I think that Sean is exactly the market they're trying to bite into. I mean, you go to Adler, for instance, in 6mm, it's a nightmare, really, isn't it? The website and all, it's not that sort of one box. You just buy it and then it's there, and that's what people want. People want that one box. I want the rules. I want the figures. I want everything just easy.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. I agree with that. I mean, we're all old sweats. We know where to go to get things. But if you're new to the hobby, you've got no idea where to.
I don't think it's just knowing where it is. It's also the kind of the time it takes to do it. Because, modern people, well, whatever they are more kind of used to just clicking on something and it kind of appears, and for me, I take great pleasure in kind of going through codes or whatever, and I'm having 5 of those and 8 of those and 7 of those, whatever. But people who just can't be asked, just give it to me now, and I think, and to me, when I look at that box, it's very much like that. And of course, what everyone knows, once you painted 2,500 or something, you're not going to swap scale, are you, really? So you kind of going to then buy the next box, which might not be as price favorable, when you're going to buy, whatever. But, that's the whole idea. But I think, what stems from that is that there'll be nice, marching armies on the field that, will be the thing. And it will open up the eyes, as we say, to the smaller scales. Because, because for me, yeah, exactly. For me, the still, what worries me sometimes is the fact that this myopia, whatever I call it, or narrow-mindedness, where I painted 10 28mm, now I can't change scale, yeah? But why not use my 10 figures to do my skirmishes with, or 50 or whatever, but then stop it there, and then actually do something bigger when you want to do the battle. It's this general idea, I'm going to paint 50 and I'm going to paint another 8,000 one day of 28mm and hopefully put it out. Why not just use for what it is? Big battle, I have my 6mm, smaller battle, I have 28mm. It's this kind of like, putting yourself into some kind of dependency just because you might have to buy a few more trees in different scales. I don't buy that argument, really. I just rather people just looked a little bit wider,
I'm with you there. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's an interesting development, and it'll be very interesting to see how the hobby react to it once it's out there in the marketplace, and certainly once shows are back on the scene, to see whether or not we're seeing these on the tables at shows and demo games. And as you said, Alex, your own club have already stated an interest in it, so that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gentlemen, I'm somewhat over the hour mark. I do apologise. It's just a little bit over. You'll have to send the invoices through for your typical hourly rate.
Sean, there is. Can I just say one thing? Yeah, that is that this is the 3rd time on this show, and I have listened to all your shows now, and a lot of people have left books in your library. Yeah. And I haven't done that yet, because the first time you hadn't done it, and the second time, I think we kind of were glad it was over because we had some issues with reception that night.
That's right, we did.
Yeah. So can I put a book in your library, please?
Of course you can. Yes, that's not a euphemism, is it?
No, not at all. thought Dan would say something like that, not you, Sean, but never mind. Anyway,
Sorry.
so anyway, so what I want to park in your garage, but anyway, uh, is the Poltava book by a chap called Peter Englund, and it was written in 1988. And I think the title in English, because it was translated, is The Battle That Shook Europe. And it's basically about, well, the Poltava Battle 1709. It is beautifully written by Peter Englund, who, after that, he's now actually a specialist. And I think I shared a book with you that he had written about World War Two. World War One, sorry.
World War One. I was just about to say that name rings a bell. Is it the same guy? Yeah.
He's become one of Sweden's kind of, I would say best kind of historical writers, and he writes fantastic kind of. Now what he specializes is small stories about, things, etc. In the bigger scene, and he did a series where he wrote one book for every year of World War One. But Poltava, which is Peter Englund is his name, he's actually one of the members of the academy that decides who gets the Nobel Prize in Literature on the basis of his historical kind of writing. And the book is beautifully written, and even in translated into English, that kind of great writing shines through. And it's a book about a horrendous battle that goes really badly for the Swedes, but it's my favorite book, and I read it 3-4 times. My dad bought this copy I have in front of me, and he bought it to me, and he says, "I hope you get some use of it." And it's from 1988, and I really did, and
Yeah.
one of the books I really, really love and cherish.
It's been remiss of me actually, Per, because I didn't realise that I'd never included you in a deposit into my onto my bookshelves.
Well, I have had a little grudge about it for some time, so yeah.
There's an irony to it because I've often thought of looking out for a good read on the Great Northern War, and there's not an awful lot out there in the English language outside of the Osprey field, is there?
No, well, what you then want to do? So what I want to say, if it's for Great Northern War in general, then this is a great book. But Helion, if you're, Helion Books,
Yeah.
they have several titles now, which is a recent one came out about Charles the 12th. That's good, more like an overview of the battles. Helion has done some amazing stuff, and I think they're kind of becoming like I don't know, they're a little bit like Osprey, but I don't know, better, feels more boutique to some degree.
Right. Yeah.
In that sense, maybe it's wrong, and I don't want to slag Osprey off, but Osprey perhaps is bigger, kind of the mega shop, and I feel Helion still has that little bit of new on the block, and the quality is slightly different, varied.
I understand. Yeah. Well, great. Thanks for that. One thing I'm going to try and do before the new year or very early in the new year is collate all of the suggestions that people left and make that available somewhere. Alex, Dan, have you got anything you'd like to drop into my box or on my shelf? Or
Oh yes, I mean, for Christmas, I don't buy figures. I don't get figures for Christmas, but I do get books. And so for I've been doing the Pony Wars, as you know, and the book that I've read really that is brilliant. I'm gonna have to read it again because it's got so much information in it. It's the Strategy of Defeat at the Little Bighorn, and that's military timing analysis of the battle. And he's got the best name. It's Frederick C. Wagner III.
wow.
And yeah, and if you're going to do the Battle of Little Bighorn, which I am going to do, that is the book to have.
Excellent. I shall put that in the show notes and a link and look it out because it's something I've been looking into a little bit myself, I have to say.
Quickly, a sort of nostalgic book is The Battle of the Little Bighorn by Custer's Last Stand. That's Ladybird. I had
Oh, I
that.
saw your pictures of that.
Yeah, I had that when I was 6. And surprisingly, it's very accurate.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. You read a lot. I've read a lot of books about the Little Big Horn, but the Ladybird book is pretty on it.
I'm sure I had that as a kid, or it was certainly in the school library.
Yeah.
That picture on the front cover really brought back a lot of memories. So
The text, I used to know every word of it, but
really,
but the illustrations, when you see the pictures again, it really brings it out. Yeah.
I'll look forward to looking those up. They shall be added to the library. Alex, anything from you?
I have one. Last time I gave you Gary Sheffield's book, didn't I?
You did, yes.
Forgotten Victory. I'm going to give you another one that's First World War, along the same lines. This one's by Dan Todman. It's The Great War, Myth and Memory. I think it's based on Dan Todman's PhD thesis, but he basically goes through various themes about the First World War and how it's perceived through these various lenses. So basically how the war was seen in the immediate aftermath of the war, then how it changed in the 30s, and then again how it changed in the 60s with the Lions and the Donkeys, and also how various veterans have helped shape modern perceptions of the war. All these different bits and pieces, and I think it's probably my favourite book. It's really, really good, really well written. There are quite a few droll jokes in there, and it's well worth seeking out. It's just a good read to see how we perceive, in particular, the First World War, but also just how we perceive military history as well. If you think of it as a wider thing, just how we view various different battles and different wars and the issues behind them from a public's point of view. It's very eye opening. Like I said, I think it's probably my favourite book. It's well worth a place on your shelf, I think.
Excellent. That will take pride of place then alongside Pear's and Dan's book. Gentlemen, it's been a marathon. Goodness me. I really appreciate all three of you taking out such a chunk of your evening this close to Christmas. It's been a great chat. Just before we sign off, I just want to mention to listeners that there is the inaugural God's Own Scale competition. I've never had a competition. It might just be a Christmas thing. I might do this as an annual thing at Christmas. There's 2 excellent prizes, one of which came in hot off the press during this recording of this podcast, where I received the confirmation email. I'll tell you how to enter, but the prizes, there's 2 prizes, so there'll be 2 names drawn out of the hat for people who enter. But there's not a first or second prize, both are of equal standing. Certainly in my eyes, but 2 names will be drawn out. The first name out of the hat will win a 6x4 gaming mat from Tiny Wargaming, who've kindly donated one for the quiz. So that will be in whatever shades or colour that you wish to have. And the other one is a £25 gift voucher for Bacchus figures. So thank you to both of those companies, to Bacchus and to Tiny Wargaming, for sponsoring the inaugural Christmas competition. And to win that Christmas competition, you may have heard during this podcast with these three fine, upstanding A-list wargaming guests that have entertained you for the last nigh on 3 hours. But each have included in their conversations, or dropped into the conversation, references, popular cultural references, let's call them that. One is for ABBA songs, one is for Shakespeare plays, and one is for popular films. So I hope you're all listening, because you might have needed to know this information at the start of the podcast, I guess, but you're going to have to go back and listen. So there's 9 references in there. It's a bit of a toughie, I admit. But if I could have entries through to my email address of godzonescale@gmail.com, and it is the 21st today of December, so I'll give you the Christmas festivity time to get through that. And let's say closing date is going to be the 21st of January. And whatever is the first show after the 21st of January, we will do the draw, and there will be 2 lucky winners for that inaugural competition. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for participating and making me laugh my socks off. Certainly your efforts to get those references into your answers, it was most creative, and I think you all deserve a big pat on the back. I hope you all have a happy, merry and safe Christmas and New Year. So Alex, thank you to you.
Well, thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the other 2 guys as well. It's been great to chat to you all.
Yeah, it's been great, hasn't it? Thank you to Per. I don't know if you can wish us Merry Christmas in Swedish.
God jul. Thanks for inviting me, and also, guys, I think we could do this maybe over a few beers sometime when it's allowed, and safe to do so. So I really enjoyed the company this evening. Thank you.
Well, if Joy of Six is on, I think all 4 of us are intending to be there by the sounds of it. So we'll certainly share a coffee and a slice of cake, I think. And Dan, thank you to you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'd love to see you all at the Joy of Six 2021.
Yes, hear to that. On that note, gentlemen, thank you once again. Thank you to the listeners for listening. Thank you. This is likely to be the last show of the year. There might be a bit of a retrospective solo thing I put out between Christmas and New Year, but this is likely to be the last show of the year. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you for all the downloads. Thank you for all the positive feedback that I've received on the podcast from around the world. Thank you to all my listeners in the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's been numerous downloads in the DRC, so I'll keep an eye on those downloads in particular. Thank you in particular to my Patreons, or my Patriots, as I call them, for keeping the lights on in the Godzone Scale studio. It's been a great year. I must make special mention to Per and Peter Berry for encouraging me back onto the airwaves to continue this podcast. It's been a great part of this year for me, and getting these 18 episodes out. Since then, I've enjoyed every single guest. Thank you to all the guests who've come onto the show during this year. Without you, the podcast doesn't happen. So I think that probably just leaves me to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to the guests, to the listeners, and hopefully see you in the new year.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.